we captured, pretty significant era there in Yankees history where you have the torch passed from Jeter to Judge, and also the torch was passed from Joe Girardi to Aaron Boone. So that brings you into the present day now.
The Dissection with Erin Mulligan.
So since you are assigned to the Yankees, does that mean you can never give like your true opinion in a report, or is there like a certain line you can't cross?
I think there's different voices that you use. When I'm writing a news article for MLB.com and Yankees.com, I think you're trying to be more middle of the road. You're just telling the facts. I'm not a columnist, so it's not my job to give an opinion. What my job is to describe what's happening and relay that accurately and quickly. But I think that on social media, you have a little more freedom. If I go on Instagram, say, and I'm doing a Q&A with fans, or once in a while we do like a mailbag or an inbox where I can kind of opine a little bit. You don't want to let your personal opinions get into a news story, your biases and whatnot. But if somebody asked me, what's your opinion of what the Yankees should do with their fifth starter situation, I can answer that, and I would do that in a mailbag for sure. But I shouldn't write, I don't think, in a news article, well, they should pick this guy because, I don't like this other guy. And so, I'm just using a hypothetical situation. But I think that there's different voices that you use depending on what the platform is.
Right. So let's talk about your books. You've covered the Yankees for a while now, and you wrote the book, The Baby Bombers, The Inside Story of the Next Yankees Dynasty. And you're the co-author of the book, Mission 27, A New Boss, A New Ballpark, and One Last Ring for the Yankees Core 4. You have articles that can be found in Yankees Magazine, New York Mets Inside Pitch, as well as FoxSports.com. It's quite the resume. And I just want to say, first of all, I own Baby Bombers, and I read it and I loved it. And
thank you.
Yeah, I loved reading the quotes and the stories that maybe not everyone knows about. And plus, by following you on Instagram, I can tell I can see your personality show through your writing. So that was
thank you.
Yeah. So what made you write those books?
Starting with the Baby Bombers, writing a book, I'd like to go skydiving someday, but I didn't really have a plan that, okay, I'm going to write a book. So if you roll the clock back to 2017, the Yankees are in the middle of a youth movement. They've gotten rid of some of these older veteran players like a Mark Teixeira, like a Carlos Beltran. These guys are out the door now, and they've got these young kids coming up, the Aaron Judge, Gary Sanchez, Luis Severino, Greg Bird was in the mix as well. And, they've got the makings of a young, exciting team, probably for the first time since Derek Jeter and Jorge Posada were getting their feet wet at the big league level. And Judge in particular was becoming the face of the Yankees, the face of Major League Baseball. And so after Aaron won the Home Run Derby in July down in Miami, a book publishing company named Diversion Books reached out to me, and they wanted to explore the idea of doing something on Aaron Judge. And we went back and forth about that a little bit. I said, Aaron's a good story, but he's only part of this story. And so what I really want to do is I want to tell the story of how the Derek Jeter Yankees became the Aaron Judge Yankees. And that would open up a whole lot more. I could get into, the machinations behind the scenes in the general manager, Brian Cashman, what Joe Girardi was doing in the manager's office. And so I think that we agree that that was the way to go with that. And so it wouldn't just be a book about Judge. It would be about Sanchez, Severino, and everything that goes on behind the scenes with a major league organization. And that was more of the story that I wanted to tell. And they were very receptive to that. And so I think that's what you have in your bookshelf right now is, the guys were great about offering time and being receptive to that project. I think that, for the kids like Judge and Sanchez and Severino, they were excited about having the idea of having a book written about them already. I mean, they were 24, 25 years old at the time and still kind of making their mark. So it worked out great that the team went to the playoffs. They were so close to going to the World Series that year. That would have been an even better book, but I think it was pretty good the way it turned out because we captured, pretty significant era there in Yankees history where you have the torch passed from Jeter to Judge, and also the torch was passed from Joe Girardi to Aaron Boone. So that brings you into the present day now.
So what made you write about the 27th championship? Was that more of a like personal connection to it because you got to be there?
It definitely was a personal connection. Mark Feinsand and I, we work together now at MLB.com, and we were buddies in the press box even before that. So we were both on the beat in 2009, excuse me, and we were there in 07 too, but we were both on the beat in 2009, and so we were there for that World Series championship. And I think that when you look back at that year, there was so much happening that it was almost like trying to drink from a fire hose in a lot of ways, because there was just so much. You had the closing of the old stadium, the opening of the new one. They signed CeCe Sabathia, AJ Burnett, Mark Teixeira. They traded for Nick Swisher. It's the last time, as we didn't know at the time, but it's the last time that Derek Jeter would ever hold the World Series trophy. The same for Mariano, the same for Posada, same for Pettit. The only time that Alex Rodriguez would get to hold it. There was just so much going on that year that, we were living it. But I don't think we really got to kind of embrace it and kind of slow it down and say, wait a second, what was happening here? And so I thought that was a great jumping off point for a book. And it was the 10-year anniversary of that. And also the fact that at the time, the Yankees opened this new ballpark, and you figure they win the 2009 World Series, and okay, that's what they were supposed to do. And so they'll win again in 10 or 11 or 12. And then when it didn't happen and you look back and it's like, wow, that year was really special. And so I think that Mark and I obviously had the contacts. We were there firsthand. And so we could tell the story of what happened, but we were able to then go back and interview almost every guy on that team and revisit it 9 or 10 years later. And I think that was a lot of fun for me. I kind of say it's like going to your high school reunion and telling old stories, with your buddies. And because we all experienced it together. We were all in that same room, and we all saw it in different ways. And so hearing some of the behind the scenes stuff that we didn't know was really fun with that. The stories that guys didn't want to tell at the time, but now it's, 5 or 10 years since they put on a big league uniform and they don't care. And so, it was it was a special time to be in New York City and a special time to be around the Yankees. And so hopefully we were able to capture that.
Awesome. Did you get a ring in 2009?
I didn't. No, I don't work for the team, but my wife did. My wife was in the Yankees PR department at the time. She's no longer there, but so we do have a World Series ring in the house, and it's got her maiden name on the side of it.
Awesome. So fast forward to this year, you were in Tampa for spring training, and it was in full swing. Before COVID became a reality in the U.S., nobody could have predicted what was going to happen. So during quarantine, there was a back and forth negotiation between the MLBPA and Commissioner Manfred. As a fan, for me, it was crazy to watch. But what was it like for you? What were your thoughts on it?
Frustrating. I don't think that either side did any favors for themselves. I think that even, Commissioner Manfred and Tony Clark would admit that. I think that they got sidetracked with the money of it, and that dominated the conversation for far too long. When the real focus should have been on the health and safety aspect and how do we get these guys back on the field safely. And look, credit to them. They eventually did figure it out. And I think that what we have now is not a perfect plan, but it seems workable so far. We're seeing some positive tests, and I think that it's been lower than I expected, which is great. I think that the fact that it's below 2% so far is fantastic. And I'm curious to see how this season goes. I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess I would say. I think that once you start traveling and getting guys staying in hotels and, potentially going to restaurants or, what have you, if they're going to go to the bar, you can't really stop them from doing that. So I am curious to see how these teams will kind of police themselves, because MLB is not going to be there to police them. It's really on the honor system. Like, if you want to play ball, you've got to pretty much lock it down here for four months. And that's what Aaron Judge was saying the other day about, they're really going to hold each other accountable. And I think that the teams that have strong leadership will succeed here in this environment, and the ones that don't will struggle. And so it's going to be a season unlike any we've ever seen before. I think that there's just it's not a perfect situation, but the idea of having a 60-game season is far better to me than having a 0. And so and that was the other alternative here, and just shut it down and wait till 2021. So I'm fingers crossed that this works out.
I agree. I was surprised there weren't more positive tests, but I guess it's a good thing.
Yep.
How do you think this season will affect stats and even players' legacies?
I think that there's nothing you can base this on. Some of the rate stats like, batting average and ERA are going to be a little silly. I think, you could have a starting pitcher with an ERA under 1. I guess you might have a guy hit 400. And so I think that you're just going to always look at this year as kind of the outlier. Guys are going to lose some time. I was thinking particularly about, players who are trying to compile these Cooperstown resumes, for example, Mike Trout. And so you're going to look at him, and he's going to play at least 100 less games this year. So probably 100 games less in his career than he would have otherwise. And that's the same for pretty much everybody across the board here. So it's going to be an outlier. It's going to be a strange year. As far as the stats, I think you're just going to have to judge it in that small little bubble and not kind of compare it to a 162, because you really can't. So this year is just not, it's just going to be different. And it doesn't mean it's worse or inferior to any other year. It's just different. And so, it's like if you have 9 apples lined up and one is an orange, like, sorry, that's just different. And you can't call it an apple. I don't know if that was the best analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway.